Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we'll be looking at The Kelee by Ron W Rathbun.
Oh, yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this one's really fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
It's this book that claims to offer a unique map to self-understanding and lasting happiness,
Okay.
blending psychology and spirituality.
All right.
And we're going to unpack the core concepts here and see what makes this approach tick.
Okay.
The big promise here is dissolving those fear-based issues we all have.
Right.
And connecting directly with our spirit for greater happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. And Rathbun's approach is interesting because it flips the script on how we usually approach personal growth. Instead of trying to create a new state of mind, he says we already possess happiness within us. It's blocked by a buildup of negative thoughts and what he calls compartments.
Okay, so it's not about adding more positivity, but clearing out the negativity that's already there.
Exactly. He calls this method the Kelee. And it's a specific type of meditation designed to dissolve those blockages. Now, what I find compelling is that this isn't just theory.
Yeah.
Rathbun's been doing this work for decades, and he's seen it work firsthand.
That's encouraging to hear. But how does this Kelee actually work? What's going on in the mind when we practice this meditation?
Well, Rathbun breaks down how our conscious awareness operates in a really unique way.
Okay.
He talks about three functions: brain function, mind function, and dysfunction.
Three functions. That's different from how I usually think about the mind. Can you break those down for me?
Of course. So the brain function is what we typically associate with intellect.
Okay.
It's those two hemispheres, the left and right brain doing their logical thinking thing.
Right.
But then there's mind function.
Okay.
This is the observer,
Yeah.
the part of us that's connected to our spirit,
Right.
our intuition, our higher self, if you will.
Okay, so brain is the logic, mind is the intuition, got it. But what about this dysfunction? That doesn't sound so good.
Well, dysfunction is where those negative thought patterns, the limiting beliefs, the trapped emotions come into play.
Right.
Rathbun calls these compartments,
Okay.
and they're the real culprits blocking our happiness.
Compartments. That's an interesting way to visualize it. Are there different types of these compartments?
Rathbun identifies three main types:
Okay.
adrenaline compartments, depression compartments, and self-created reality compartments.
Okay.
Each of these compartments has a different way of impacting us.
I'm especially curious about these adrenaline compartments.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on those?
Most of us experience those adrenaline bursts from time to time. Think of them as pressure cookers exploding outward with stress,
Right.
reactivity,
Yeah.
and that fight or flight response.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Okay.
It's like when that tiny inconvenience sends you into a tailspin, right?
Precisely. And what Rathbun highlights is that these compartments,
Yeah.
whatever form they take, keep us from experiencing the freedom and peace that comes from being truly connected to our spirit.
So it's not just about feeling stressed or down. It's about being disconnected from our true selves. That's deep.
And the Kelee is all about bridging that gap.
Okay.
But before we jump into how that works, I think it's important to understand the different ways we interact with these compartments,
Okay.
because that's where things start to get really insightful.
All right, let's dive into that then. How do these compartments show up in our lives?
Rathbun outlines three ways our awareness interacts with them:
Okay.
being consumed, being influenced,
Yeah.
and being free.
Okay.
Let's unpack each of those a bit further, shall we?
Let's do it. Walk me through what it means to be consumed by a compartment.
When we're consumed, we're essentially puppets to these negative patterns.
Yeah.
It's like being on autopilot, driven by unconscious beliefs and reactions. We're not even aware of how much these compartments are influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behavior.
So it's like those moments where you react without even thinking and later wonder, where did that come from?
Exactly. But then there's being influenced, which is a step up in awareness.
Okay.
Here, you recognize the compartments effect. You feel the stress or the sadness,
Right.
but you're not completely controlled by it.
Okay.
You have a bit more choice in how you respond.
So you're aware of the negativity, but it's not necessarily running the show. That sounds more hopeful.
It is. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to be free from these compartments altogether.
Right.
That's where true inner peace and happiness reside, when you're no longer weighed down by those negative patterns.
That freedom sounds amazing. Is that where Kelee meditation comes into play? Is that the key to dissolving these compartments?
Get it? Kelee meditation is the core practice for calming the brain function,
Okay.
what Rathbun calls the monkey mind that's constantly chattering and analyzing.
Yeah.
By calming those mental waves, we create space for the mind function, our intuitive and spiritual awareness to emerge.
Yeah.
And in that space of stillness, we can access and dissolve those troublesome compartments.
So it's like quieting the mental chatter to finally tap into that deeper wisdom within.
Beautifully put. And there's another element to this whole system that I think will blow your mind.
Okay.
Rathbun actually created a visual representation of the Kelee,
Wow.
a diagram that acts as a map for understanding all of these internal processes.
A map of the mind. That's fascinating. I'm definitely going to need some help understanding that.
Don't worry, we'll explore that in detail as we continue our deep dive.
Essay.
Think of it as a visual guide to navigating your inner world, seeing where those blockages are, and understanding how Kelee meditation can help you break free.
This is already so much more than just a typical self-help book. I can see why you're so excited about this approach.
It's truly transformative. And what I find most inspiring is that it empowers us to take ownership of our mental and emotional well-being.
Right.
It's not about blaming external circumstances or hoping for a magic pill. It's about recognizing the power we have to shape our own experience from the inside out.
I love that message of empowerment. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's time to take a closer look at how Kelee meditation actually works. What are the steps involved? What does it feel like to practice this technique?
That's a great place to pick up when we return.
Okay.
Kelee meditation is where the rubber meets the road,
Right,
where
yeah.
theory becomes practice,
Yeah.
and where you can start to experience the profound shifts that Rathbun describes in the Kelee.
I'm excited to hear more about it. We'll be right back after a short break to dive into the practice of Kelee meditation. All right, so we've established that Kelee meditation is the core practice for dissolving these so-called compartments.
Right.
But before we dive into the specifics, what really intrigues me is this idea that happiness is already within us.
Yeah.
It's not something we need to create or achieve. It's more about removing the obstacles that are blocking it.
That's the essence of the Kelee.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that our natural state is one of joy and peace.
Right.
But over time, we accumulate these negative patterns and beliefs, these compartments that cloud our perception and disconnect us from our true nature.
So how does Kelee meditation actually help us clear out those blockages?
It's a technique designed to quiet the brain function. By calming those mental waves, we create space for the mind function,
Okay.
our intuitive and spiritual awareness to emerge.
Yeah.
And in that space of stillness, we can access and dissolve those troublesome compartments.
I'm trying to picture this in my mind.
Yeah.
Is it about emptying the mind completely? Or is it more about shifting our relationship to our thoughts and feelings?
It's definitely more about shifting our relationship.
Okay.
It's not about suppressing thoughts or emotions, but rather observing them without judgment, allowing them to rise and fall like waves in the ocean.
Yeah.
The observer of our internal experience.
So it's about creating a space of awareness where we can detach from the thoughts and emotions that are causing us suffering.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as we practice this detachment, we start to see these compartments for what they are.
Okay.
Just thoughts, just beliefs, not our true identity.
Right.
And that's when the real transformation begins.
You mentioned earlier that Rathbun actually created a diagram
Yes.
to help visualize this process. Can we talk more about that? What does this Kelee diagram look like, and how does it help us understand these concepts?
The diagram is actually quite simple, but it's a powerful tool for self-understanding.
Okay.
It depicts a circle representing our consciousness, with the brain function at the top and the mind function at the bottom. Radiating out from the center are these compartments, representing those negative patterns and beliefs we've been discussing.
So it's a visual representation of how those compartments are essentially blocking us from connecting with our true selves.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that as you practice Kelee meditation, you can actually start to feel those compartments dissolving.
Really?
It's like clearing away the mental clutter to reveal the clarity and peace that's always been there.
That's an incredible image.
Yeah.
So the diagram isn't just a theoretical model.
Right.
It's a practical tool that can help us track our progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gives you a tangible way to see where you're getting stuck, what compartments are most active in your life,
Right.
and how Kelee meditation is helping you break free. It's like having a roadmap for your inner journey.
This is all starting to click into place. We're learning how to identify the mental clutter,
Yeah.
calm the mind through meditation,
Right.
and use this diagram as a guide to dissolve those blockages. It's a truly comprehensive approach to personal growth, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And what makes it so powerful is that it addresses both the psychological and spiritual dimensions of our being.
Yeah.
It's not just about positive thinking or willpower.
Right.
It's about understanding the underlying mechanics of the mind and working with them in a skillful way.
Right. It's not about denying or suppressing our negative thoughts and emotions, but rather understanding them and ultimately transcending them.
And one of the key takeaways here is that true happiness isn't something we need to chase after or manufacturing. It's already present within us, waiting to be uncovered. Kelee meditation simply provides the tools to clear away the debris that's obscuring our view.
That's such an empowering message. So often we're looking outside ourselves for fulfillment, but the Kelee reminds us that the answers are within.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, this is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
The practice of Kelee meditation is ongoing, a way of life that allows us to continually refine our understanding of ourselves.
Right.
And cultivate greater peace and happiness. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Now that we've covered the internal aspects of Kelee, I'm curious about the external impact.
Okay.
If we're able to free ourselves from these negative compartments, does that have a ripple effect on the world around us?
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
And one that Rathbun addresses in the book.
Okay.
He emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things. When we cultivate inner peace and harmony, it naturally radiates outwards.
Right.
Influencing our relationships, our communities, and even the planet as a whole.
Wow.
In fact, he has a powerful quote that sums it up perfectly.
Okay.
When you do something good for yourself, you do something good for everybody.
Oh, I love that. So our individual journeys of self-discovery and healing can actually contribute to a more positive and harmonious world.
That's the idea. When we transform ourselves, we transform the world around us.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful and inspiring concept that speaks to the power of personal growth and its potential to create positive change on a global scale.
This deep dive into the Kelee has been incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
We've explored the nature of our minds, the impact of negative compartments, and the transformative power of Kelee meditation. But what I find most compelling is this idea that our inner work has a direct impact on the world around us. Yeah. It's a reminder that personal growth is not just about self-improvement, but about making a positive contribution to something larger than ourselves.
I couldn't agree more. And as we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
Imagine a world where everyone is committed to dissolving their own compartments,
Right.
to cultivating inner peace, and radiating that harmony outwards.
Right.
What kind of world would that be?
That's a powerful question to ponder.
Yeah.
And it leads us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Where we'll explore the practical applications of the Kelee and how we can integrate these principles into our daily lives to create that more harmonious world.
Great.
So we've talked a lot about the theory behind the Kelee, these compartments and how they block us from true happiness.
Right.
And we even touched on this Kelee meditation.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use all this in our everyday lives?
Well, the most important thing is to start practicing Kelee meditation regularly, even just a few minutes each day.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about creating that quiet space to observe your thoughts and emotions.
So like creating a habit.
Exactly.
Right.
And as you practice, you'll become more aware of your compartments.
Okay.
You'll start to notice what triggers them.
Okay.
And that's when you can start to choose a different response. We can learn to observe them without judgment and choose a more positive way of being. Kelee meditation helps us to calm the brain function and create space for the mind function to emerge.
Okay, that makes sense. But isn't that kind of a long process? I mean, these patterns can be pretty ingrained.
It takes time and effort, but it's definitely possible.
Okay.
And the more we practice, the easier it becomes.
So the key is consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, the goal isn't to achieve some kind of perfect state of happiness. It's about continually growing and evolving, becoming more aware and more compassionate.
And as we do that work on ourselves, does that have an impact on the world around us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rathbun talks about this ripple effect.
Okay.
When we cultivate inner peace, it radiates outwards.
Yeah, I can see that.
Our relationships improve, we're more patient and understanding,
Right.
and that creates a more positive environment for everyone.
So it's not just about us, it's about creating a better world for everyone.
Exactly. When we heal ourselves, we heal the world.
That's a powerful message.
It is. And it's something we can all contribute to,
Right.
no matter who we are, where we come from.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
I really have. The Kelee offers such a unique perspective on personal growth and spirituality.
It does. And it's a reminder that we all have the power to create positive change.
Both in our own lives and in the world.
Exactly. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the Kelee.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this journey.
My pleasure.
And remember, the journey to a more fulfilling life and a more peaceful world starts from within.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.